Lesson learned, I will never joke again about spaghetti alla bolognese. Sorry about that. So, my name is Eric Brehault. Um, I'm a Plone developer for a long time, like 10 years, but since 2 years I'm working at ONA, where I'm a front-end developer. And my job is basically to build a front-end application, quite a big one, on top of Guillotina. So, my topic today is traversing. So traversing is simple, right? Most of you are Plone developers, Zob developers, Guillotina developers, and you know about traversing because, yeah, something you use every day. It's super simple, but explaining traversing is super challenging. I don't know if it ever happened to you, like you have someone who does not know anything about traversing, like someone doing routing, like a Django developer going to use routing, a React developer going to use routing. Everybody's using routing and start explaining, yes, traversing is so cool, it's something great. And you explain how it works, and it's end up actually super quickly because it's like you feel you have explained everything about it. The other guy seems to think like he got everything you said, but actually he thinks that's nothing special. So in your mind, you have been explaining this like the ideal thing you might have in mind, like it's so perfect. And what the guy got from your explanation is basically this. A default route going to a default view, and yeah, why should I care, right? So yeah, it's difficult to explain, and my objective here is try to give you some element to go deeper in this concept. It's not technical, right? It's about this concept. Try to approach it in order for you to be able to explain it to someone who does not know about it. So, yeah, traversing is the most common thing you can imagine. Billions of people are experiencing traversing every day, you know, on the web. So that's something super common. And surprisingly, web developers, they don't get it. They don't get it at all. It's like, even brilliant people, right? It's brilliant people, you explain about it. I've been in this case sometimes. I've been facing some brilliant people and explaining traversing. It's like, no, sorry, no. So, question is, are we smarter? When I say we, I mean Guillotina developer, Zob developer, Plone developer, Pyramid developer, few of them use traversing. Are we smarter? I don't think we are really. Let's be honest. We're not smarter. Maybe we have seen the light, right? So you know this movie maybe from the 80s, the Blues Brothers. It's a good movie. So yeah, as we are in the cinema, maybe I should take a moment to explain about this movie. It's the story of a Zob developer. He actually is a web developer initially, and he's joining back his brother after spending many years on a long-term Django project. And he discovers traversals, he sees the lights, that's when it happens, and then he starts dancing and singing, and as we all do, right, when we do programming. So yeah, it's a fantastic movie. And yeah, anyway, so we've seen the light, but let's go back to the basis. Web is simple. It's about simple concept. URLs, hypermedia, right? That's the basis of web. And people usually understand it pretty well. People, even non-technical people, know what's an URL. Not all people, but yeah, URL is quite simple to get. Hypermedia as well. I mean, you have been seen HTML already. Yes, that's hypermedia. And yeah, because of those two concepts, hypermedia plus URLs, the web is traversable. So traversing is simple as well, and it's powerful, but people don't get it. So let's go into it. Traversing can apply to any tree-based information structure, right? So it could be anything. It could be a file system. It could be the XML DOM. It could be, yeah, anything like a tree can be traversed. When you do that, you traverse, right? You are reaching a point in your file system, you are navigating from one point to another with a relative path or an absolute path. That's traversing. That's just what it is, okay? Nothing else. Simple. And yeah, web is traversable. You know links, right? You have something like this, click here, you click, and you go to another place. So that's how it works. That's what happens when you use a browser every day. We'll come back to this example because it's a very good one, but later. Let's talk about web apps. What are web apps? Web apps are just any software which is using the web format, okay? That's a simple definition you can find. So it can apply to back application, to front-end application, to both. I mean, yeah. So web is about traversing. Web applications are using the web format, but even though all the web applications are all about routing. So that's crazy. And I'm going to show you an example of how routing works. Routing is like you're going to have a home page containing a link. So yeah, the image is good enough, yeah. A link like /product/123. And it's on a link, an anchor, with router link or route to or whatever language you're using, whatever technology you're using. Yeah, you say, I want to route to product 123. So what is going to happen behind is the routing system knows that /product/whatever is supposed to be parsed to extract the whatever part, so 123, because that's a product ID. And then it's going to call the product view component, let's say. In this component, we will receive 123 as a parameter, and then if we are using a state management system, we're going to dispatch, yeah, load this product 123. So we are dispatching load product 123. And we have somewhere something, a service, an effect, or whatever it is, we will catch this dispatch action and get 123 to build the corresponding backend endpoint, /product/123. We're going back to what we had at the origin, right? But yeah. So we call product/123 on an endpoint. And then the server routing system receives /product/123, and it knows that everything like /product/123 is supposed to be parsed. So you get the 123 thing, that's a product ID, and you can give it to the product view. So here in the product view, then you receive 123 as the ID, and you will ask your database to find the information about the 123 product. So you make a select with this, for instance. And you get a result, which is probably JSON. So you have an ID, you have a title, and you have a rated products list. And it's some kind of list of paths to other products, like 4, 5, 6, for instance. So the front end going to receive this, and you dispatch the payload, and the reducer read it, and it gets this new mention of a product, 4, 5, 6, store it in the state. Then it will pass it to the product view component to create a new link on the rendering with tag A, router link equal product/456. And yes, that's a so clean and simple system, no? It works nicely, I love it, no? That's craziness, that's total craziness. So let's go back to the 90s, when I started making web pages in 93, I think, yeah? And at the time, you had a static website, obviously, and you can create a page in a folder, like you have a folder named product, and you make a page 123.html. And if you are on your web server with your browser, you go to /product/123, and it displays a page, right? But then you say, hey, maybe I should classify my product. So 123 is actually a bike. So I'm going to make a subfolder into products, named bikes, and I move my HTML file into the bikes folder, right? You do that, and then you go to your browser, you go to product/bike/123, and yes, it works. Well, that's genius. That's perfect. What's wrong with us? Because we are implementing routing system everywhere, and whenever you want to move your 123 bike into the bike folder, right, it's all broken, and you need to rebuild your server, you need to rebuild your front-end application and everything. That's super bad. That's super bad. The problem, the original sin of routing is not that, as I've been demonstrating with my crappy images, that you are keeping on parsing and concatenating the same string, going from one path to an ID, etc. It's not about that, because concatenating string is okay. I mean, maybe it's stupid, but it's not wasting too much energy, right? So we can afford that. The problem is not that. The sin here, the problem is that at any step of the routing example I've been giving, you have to know the type of resource you are processing. So you need to know that it's a product. So you need to call this component, and you need to produce such route, and you need to know that on the server side, you need to know that on the front side. Knowledge is the original sin. That's what the Bible says. And it all started with an apple. So yeah, that's the problem with routing. So let's go back to this example. That's a simple web page. Well, it's not, but yeah, it's a link you could find in a web page. You have click here, and that's a link. And you can click, right? You can go there and click, and well, what's going to be? Another page, maybe. Or maybe not, maybe it's a PDF. You don't know at the time you click, and your browser don't know at the time you click what it is you're going to get after clicking here. So let's try, right? Oops. Yeah, why not? Yeah, someone changed this link now because it was not the original one. But yeah, anyway. Shit. It's really. I recall myself. It's not cool. Yeah, sorry. So, where is my presentation now? I hope I have not. Oh, okay. Cool. So, routing is syncing stuff like databases. Like products is my product table actually, and I map it to the web. And web is not like a database. It's not. It's a gigantic library, right? Web is like a chocolate box. You have a link, you don't know what you're going to get. So yeah, this movie, I'm going to talk about movie again. This movie is from the 90s. You know it, no, Forrest Gump? It's about an Angular developer. And everybody says to him that Angular cannot run fast. But he ended up to prove he actually can run really fast, as maybe faster than anything else. And he had a lot of adventure because of that. And he even ended up marrying Robin Wright. So I think Angular is pretty cool technology. Yeah. But yeah, it's a nice movie. You should see it if you haven't. So routing comes from this SQL vision, and I think it's sad and depressing. I really dislike SQL. And web is free and wild. You can push any information wherever you want. You can link anything wherever you want to something else. That's the spirit of web, right? It's free and wild, and our web apps are not. And I would like our web apps to be free and wild. Our application should work just like a browser. JSON, or XML if you're old-fashioned, but JSON is hypermedia. It contains links just like an HTML page. It's actual links you get into a JSON payload. So when you click a link on a browser, you don't know what you're going to get, but you're super happy because that's cool. You know your browser going to react to that. While I want my application to act the same. I get a link from a payload. I go to that link. My application should be neutral about it. No, do not assume anything about it and render the information depending on its nature. So let's go for a very simple demo. Super simple. It's not long. So it's super basic. It's just showing how Traversal could work. This application is just taking as an input a GitHub repository. So that's what I have in my input here. Where is my cursor? Yeah, here. And if you go, it will call the GitHub API, and it will return, as it's a folder, I get a list of files, a list of links. And if I click on one of them, then it will call the API again and render its content because that's a file. But I don't know at the time I click on this link here if it's a file or a folder. I have no information about that, but I just traverse to that. So I traverse the GitHub API, it returns me an object, JSON object, and saying, hey, I'm a folder. Okay, you're a folder, I'm gonna display you as a folder. So providing a list. And gonna say maybe I'm a file. Well, then I just behave the way I'm supposed to do with a file. I show the text content. So just like a browser would do with a normal link, my application is doing the same. When I start my application, I have no idea which repository the user want to go. So I cannot assume that all the files going to be at this location and all the folder in this location. So I cannot program any route, right? It's totally open. And my application does not need to be teach about it. It's neutral, just like a browser is, right? It reacts to the content it gets from the server. So the server is mastering the structure of the information, and the application is just neutral and receive information, render it the way it should be. So that's the objective of front-end traversing. So you're probably comfortable with back-end traversing, so basically I work an HTTP server. And in this previous example about GitHub, I was not using front-end traversing. I was just having an application, front-end application, able to dialogue, to exchange and get information from a traversable endpoint. Now, how could we reach a point where we apply traversing to front-end? The idea is nice, but it needs to introduce another concept, and I will take a few moments to explain it. It's about state management. So there have been several talks about React and state management, Redux, etc. I will try to explain it on a very, very simple way, not too technical if possible. So you have something like that in an application, like a login method that will make a post to an endpoint /login. And when you get the result, you refresh the profile. So it's supposed to refresh the name of the guy, his photo, whatever it is. That's kind of MVC kind of approach. And it works okay when things are simple. The truth is, front-end is not simple. So whatever you're trying to do with front-end, if you think it could go like this, yeah, well, you better think again, because it's more like this. So, yeah, another stop about a movie. This movie is from, this scene is from Predator. You know the movie Predator from the 80s. It's about a very, very mean back-end developer who arrive on a planet where lives peaceful front-end developers, and he starts hunting and killing them just because he's very, very mean. But at the end, the front developer win, and that's cool. Yeah, I like this movie. But yeah, anyway, the thing is, when you're doing front end, you're in a crossfire. It's shooting everywhere around. It's super dangerous. You have backend responses, you don't know when. You have user interaction, no idea when. Like super violent one, like a scroll or drag and drop, pushing a ton of events. You have intercomponent communication. You have everything like that happening asynchronously. So that's a very much like a war. It's super dangerous. And you will probably end up calling refresh profile in a case that you don't expect. Probably will produce an inconsistent state of your application. So that's a real problem if you stick to the MVC approach. So that's why we're using state management. What the principle of it is that, like, you should understand that time is an illusion. The UI is totally dynamic. The user does stuff, the server is doing as well, everything is moving at the same time. So it's dynamic, and you try to implement it as a dynamic process. Well, that's a mistake. You will never try, you will never succeed. So you should, if you try to do that, you act like you can control the timing, but the timing is not yours. It's totally not. So you should forget about time. No past, no future. That's the Redux approach, the state management approach. For a given state, your UI will look like this. So every time this state appends again, it will always look like this. Whatever the previous state was, whatever the next one going to be for this state, I get this. Simple. So you have no past and no future, and it's totally static. And it looks like it's dynamic because every time something happens, you replace the current state with another one, so you get a new static version of what you got. And as we are stupid, we think it's dynamic, but it's not. So that's how it works. So let's take an example, a real-life example. I call my wife just before cooking the dinner, and I ask her, will you be at home for dinner? So depending on the answer, I'm going to cook for 2 or for 1, right? So that's simple life's case. But what if my wife is an alien? So maybe some of you think their life partner is an alien. I don't know. Maybe a few of them know. It's okay, actually. You can manage it with Redux. It's something you can manage. So let's say my wife is an alien in a galaxy far, far, far away. So if I ask her, will you be home for dinner? I cannot expect an immediate answer because, you know, light speed and so on. It's super painful. So I ask the question, but I don't expect any answer. I forget about my question. I forget about it. I just, ask her and then forget. So my family often say, you never listen to what we say. And I'm like, yeah, of course, I'm a front-end developer. What did you think? No, I don't listen. So yeah, eventually she will reply. And what he's going to do is going to increment the number of guests in my state somewhere. And at the time I will start cooking, I just go to the state and see how many guests are planned. And then I'm gonna cook for this amount of guests. So that's how it works. It's decoupling stuff. Decoupling is super important. So Redux provides this ability to discuss with aliens, like people you don't know when they're going to answer. So server is an alien. And if you think about it, front-end developer, think very much that back-end developer are kind of aliens. So decoupling is cool. And yes, if you consider like a car, you're building a car, you have the speedometer indicating the speed you are running at. And you have the accelerator to change the speed, right? If you implement the accelerator in such a way it controls directly what the speedometer is displaying, that's a big mistake. Because first it can be false, because not because you are accelerating that the speed is going to change. And plus you might end up with a system where you say, hey, maybe we should just use the speedometer to change the speed because it's connected actually. And well, nobody would do that on a car, right? But we are doing this kind of very, very bad mistake every time in web applications. So that's where decoupling should be a very big concern for all of us every time. So let's go more in detail on how works the state management. You dispatch an action. Dispatching action is like action or information. So I will be at home for dinner, that's an information. So I send this information. It goes to the state. So sending information is dispatching action, basically. It's like an event or a signal, if you want to use computer software-related namings. Then you have a reducer. So your reducer is going to take the previous state, which is saying number of guests is 1, and will increment it. So you have a new state saying number of guests is 2. So it's just about reading the information and updating, creating a new state to replace the old one, which is the correct state for the current situation. And that's not what it does. It does not care about the consequences. That's the most important thing you need to understand. You just update the state, and you forget about the rest. The rest is handled by someone else. So the someone else is me cooking dinner component. That's my name. Start cooking dinner, and when I instantiate myself as a cooker, I take from the state the number of guests. And then that's it. So SELECTOR is like a SQL view, basically. You are extracting from the state the information you need as a cook. I don't need much information but the number of guests. I don't try to organize the dinner at the same time I'm cooking it. I don't try to know how many, calling people, will you be at home, etc. No, it's not my job as a cooker component. I should just focus on the number of guests. I get it from the state, and that's all. You don't mix concerns. So don't organize the dinner at the same time you are cooking it. So that's the principles. Now, state and traversing. Let's connect the two concepts. Okay? So you could imagine something like this. Instead of routing, you could use a directive like traverse to something, and you pass a path to that, right? So this page would be on your application on the front side, and you have a link. Well, when you're going to click on this link, it will dispatch, load this path. And this path is actually the one you get on your browser, but it's also corresponding to the one your backend is expecting in order to provide you the Star Wars Day article, right? So it will call the backend with the very same path. So we take the path we add on the link, which is a browser-based local information produced by JavaScript application, and I just append the backend domain and call it. I get a JSON. And this JSON, if it's properly structured and well done, it's going to tell me, yeah, I'm an article. I have somewhere an information about that. But it could also be an interface. It could be whatever you want, but something allowing you to know what it is about. So that's an article. Good. Then you have a type view mapping. Just like your browser knows that when it's HTML, I render it. When it's PDF, I render it with this other tool. When it's, I don't know, a zip file, I download it. This mapping is somewhere in your browser, right? It knows for each type of media what it should do. Well, you are not manipulating type of media in your web apps, but custom types, like article, why not? So you map somewhere that article is such component, the article component. So at the time you are getting your response from the backend, you discover, you didn't know before, you discover that it's an article while you're going to instantiate the article component, and it will receive the context. So context is just like the one you have on any Plone template, right? That's the current object you are rendering. And you get that in your class, you select it from the context, from the state, and then it's acting as an observable. So that means that you don't need to care about if the context is there or not. At the time it will pop up, you will receive it, and the component gonna render it. And then you can do other stuff like this. Traverse to ... So you're gonna go to the parent content, which might be, I don't know, might be an article, or might be a folder, or might be a collection of articles. It can be anything, I just don't care. I just want to go one step back. Well, that's the way we go. And the thing with these concepts that we are building a traversable collection. That means the traverser front-end application similar to the GitHub one I show will actually take every backend response and push it into a collection into the state. So I have my backend reproduced locally, kind of, and I can query it with SELECTOR. It's in my state. It's acting like a cache, if you want. And then I can do stuff like this. I can have a component. Let's say it's on the left side, and I want to show the list of related articles. So I will just have this kind of selector, select ... and then I pipe it, and I get the items of the corresponding object, which happen to be a folder. Or I can go to ... ///09, so I get articles from September. So that's quite handy. You can traverse your local data, and the thing is, if this data is not existing, it will query it in behind. So if you are like loading an article and you want its parent and its all ancestor because you are trying to render a breadcrumb, for instance, while the system gonna check on the state, this content is missing, I make the corresponding call. And every time you make a call, you enrich your state. Now, what if I need an actual route? That's okay. You can have route with traversing if you want. It's okay. It works. So you can. Oh, sorry. Yeah. And you can also decide to remove route entirely by just having different views for the slash object, which is a route. So if you need, I don't know, an admin panel, it could be an actual view for the content route you map to it. So I'm stopping now because it's over. Just one final slide. So Angular Traversal, NGX-STATE-TRAVERSER, and GRANGE are all a stack of Angular implementation implementing those concepts, and it allows to make great applications super fast. So if you are into Angular, but I know a few of you are, you can check that out. But it was not about this. It was mainly about the concept. So I hope it was interesting. Thank you for your attention.